Think about your workplace right now. Do you find that there are a lot of people there with hidden agendas? Maybe there's lots of gossip, or maybe you're witnessing power plays playing out between two managers. Well, welcome to the world of office politics. Office politics isn't all about dirty games though. If you navigate and master office politics the right way, it can be the difference between you being a middle of the road employee versus being a top performer that is primed for accelerated career growth. So in this video, I want to show you all the tips that I've employed that have helped me to navigate like a pro office politics. And this is the #1 factor for me personally and for many people to get ahead in the workplace. It's not just about doing a good job. It's not about being the smartest in the room. It's about knowing how to play the politics in the office. So whilst it might all sound like dirty games, really what you're going to do with office politics is nurture that to make it about your reputation, about protecting your reputation, thriving in any environment and being able to influence other people as well. So don't see office politics as a battlefield. Let's get straight into it and start to embrace this and make it work for us in our careers. The first exercise you need to do, whether you're a new employee in your workplace or you've been there for a while, is you need to understand the political landscape. Now, what this means is it's not the organizational chart that you've got at your office place where you may have the chief officer and then senior executives, directors, etc. That is not the political landscape. So whilst you have that as your rudimentary hierarchy at work, really where office politics comes into play is understanding who holds the influence. Who are the real decision makers in the workplace? And who are the key stakeholders? Who is everyone trying to impress? Who are the people that when they speak, that strategy is taken up or their word is taken forward? You need to do a lot of listening and a lot of observing in the beginning and start to paint this political landscape for yourself. What you'll notice is informal power structures that aren't on the org chart. You'll find managers in groups or allies together. You'll find some that are detractors, I should say, and not influencers, but you need to work out where these power structures lie and start to map that out in your mind or on paper. Also pay attention to the conflicts. So there'll be particular conflicts going on around you or in the wider organization that you can hear about, and try to map out who is conflicting with who, and looking at the power balances, you can start to figure out, who is really going to win this battle or who is in the wrong, or someone you want to stay away from as your detractor, so to speak. When you're in meetings as well, it's really important to sit back and pay attention to cues, verbal and non-verbal cues. You can tell from people in the room, if you're in a meeting with people who hold decision-making power, from the way they interact with other people, you can work out, who has that decision-making power, who has that gravitas and that influence. And where there are cues where people are not taking the lead to speak for a reason, try and understand why that is happening as well. So once you've got a good political landscape mapped out and you kind of know who are the detractors and the influencers and who are grouped together in allies and who are the detractors, this is a great picture to have, because that will help you when you're making decisions and it will help you with the impact you're having on your work, and we'll get into that in a second. You're going to now build strong relationships with these individuals, or you're going to try and align yourself to these individuals who are in the power sphere and who have that influence, positive influence. And you're not going to do this in a disingenuous way. You need to do this in a very authentic way. You need to find out what your role is and find the connection between what you're doing in your day-to-day and where your strategy is in your team versus where that individual or that group of individuals want to go, and try and align yourself, find some connection points. And that's a good way in to have conversation or to form some project or strategic partnerships, but you need to find a way to align yourself with what you do in your day-to-day and those people in those power positions and those groups of people in the power position. It's not about always going for the person at the top of that power chain. It's about finding the people that you can approach genuinely genuinely without it looking disingenuous. Show that group of people and their sphere around them that you're willing to help. You can add value to them. You can help their cause, and try and show them that you are someone who is willing to step out of your own role to help their mission go forward effectively. And that's what you need to do. You need to be open-minded. You need to have this empathy towards what they want to achieve, but also this non-threatening nature that makes them want to almost take you under their wing and put you in that bracket as well. Over time, even just by making a good connection with one person in that group will lead to many more connections with that group as it starts to expand and you're invited into wider conversations. You get to know that group a lot more, and it's really, really important, I cannot stress this enough, to do this genuinely, because it sticks out like a sore thumb, especially those people who are pros at office politics. They all know when you are being basically calculated. That's how it will come across. It won't come across as genuine or authentic. So you really need to make sure you're doing this for the right reasons and you don't look like someone who's just faking it and effectively you're written off at that point. The next thing you need to do is manage conflicts appropriately. You need to stay neutral in conflicts where you absolutely do not need to have an opinion. You can stay absolutely neutral there. You should only voice your opinion in these conflicts if you absolutely have to. If it impacts you, you need to have that voice, and you need to back what you're saying up with evidence, with data, or with what is good for the customer or good for the company, not just for yourself. So if you're in that conflict zone, make sure you're only speaking up for the right reasons, and you only speak up if you absolutely have to. When there is conflict in the office, this is normally the time where it's very clear who the detractors are in this political landscape, but also how you handle it is being observed by others. And people in that positive influence sphere of the political landscape will take notice if you handle conflict very well. Always maintain professionalism in any conflict that is happening. Do not descend into matching the other person if they're being uncomfortable or childish or just coming at you personally. Do not engage in that. Always maintain professionalism, and where possible have a mediator with you as well. If that is hard for you to do, have someone neutral around. Do not just have a one-to-one conversation with this individual that you are having conflict with. And what is being observed externally to your conflict is whether you're adding drama, because there's a lot of noise in the office space. And noise, what I mean by noise is not actually, I would say, sound as in noise. It's noise as in what is meaningful conversation and what is driving work forward versus what is effectively just irrelevant, just chatter. It's just hot air and it's not moving the company forward. Now, people who are well attuned to office politics can spot noise. I've spent many years mastering this, and effectively over time you get to a point where you know when to listen to a conversation or when to just not take that information into your head, because it is effectively noise and things that just detract you from what you need to do. So be very careful to not add to that noise, and also just keep concise, keep focused on the outcome of what you're trying to achieve in a conflict. Now, I spent a lot of time talking about conflict because it is important, because that's where people in the political landscape start to form opinions of you. So very important to manage conflict in that manner. Tying on from that is effectively mastering your emotional intelligence. Now, you'll notice that as you go up the chain, people aren't necessarily smarter as you go up the chain. You may see people who are really smart in middle management thinking, well, how come they're not directors or executive leaders? And that's probably because they have not got the emotional intelligence that you need to get to the top. And the emotional intelligence is what drives you up further up the chain. It's not your IQ, it's your EQ. And that means effectively you can stay calm and composed even in the hardest, toughest situations. You're able to see a clear way forward, and you're able to galvanize people around you to do the right thing in a very chaotic environment. This also means that you're really good at anticipating the behaviors and responses of others. When someone has very high EQ, they know that when they're going to say something to a certain individual, they can expect or predict the response back. And that helps you strategically to work out if you're going to say certain things, or you're going to land an idea, or maybe you want to embark on a big project that may step on a few people's toes. You're going to have to work out how that is going to play out and think ahead. And with that emotional intelligence, you'll be able to work out who are the people that are going to come back and have a voice and opinion against you, but then also you can preempt and navigate that and start preparing in advance. So having that emotional intelligence is really important. It's about reading other people, but also about how you respond and how you stay calm. And when a topic is sensitive, just admit that it's sensitive, be open about it, and handle it with diplomacy. Do not try and be blunt or ignorant, or try and be very tactful in these sort of areas which are a bit politically sensitive. So always try to be diplomatic, try and stay neutral, but also try and show that your intention is to get the best for the customer or the best for the company. And always putting that lens first makes it egoless for you and makes you non-threatening in that situation as well. The next one is your visibility. Now, I've got a whole video which I'll link to right now about visibility in the workplace, but you need to start making sure you are visible, and that means showing up. When I mean showing up, I don't mean physically. I mean showing up as in when you are having work done or you've completed tasks, you bring that to the table. You voice that, the value that you've brought. You're not blowing your own trumpet. You're doing this in a genuine manner, but you're effectively showing people your worth. And that's really important to do as well. If you want to be in the ranks of the upper side of the company that you work in, you need to first show your worth. You need to make that political landscape of individuals know that you are someone valuable and someone useful to them as well. So be present, share your ideas, share your insights in meetings. Obviously not going too far, be concise and be clear, and don't just ramble, but really show what value you can bring genuinely, whether you're in a meeting. Have the confidence to know that you have a seat at the table and to make that voice heard. Always keep your manager and people around your manager in their peer group, keep them informed of your successes. Don't just keep that to yourself and then just blurt it out under pressure in a stressful situation. You need to always keep people on top of what you have done and make sure it's known. Make sure it's known to wide audiences. If it's work you can talk about in forums, or it's work that you can talk about when you're having conversations with your manager's peers, but you need a wider group of individuals to know what you're doing. And when you're trying to raise your visibility, you're also trying to be someone who's trusted, someone who is trusted advisor, and someone who can actually solve problems. And that is showing your value and becoming visible. You become more visible to senior leaders when they think you are useful to them and you are valuable to the company. And you can only be valuable to the company if you are a trusted advisor to these individuals and you're seen as a problem solver. So take the opportunity to move forward in that space where you see the opportunity to solve a problem. Tell the individual who has the problem that, you know, they can trust you, you'll help them, you'll get them as far as you can. And even that in itself is enough to start making people warm to your way of working, but also bringing you into that inner circle that you need to be in. If you work in a corporate environment like I do in an investment bank, which can be pretty savage at times, if you work in any other corporate environment or an office environment, the number one thing you need to do is document everything. Now, my sister works in the NHS and she's in management there, and I tell her to do exactly the same thing, and it has saved her on so many occasions. But you need to document everything. Now, if decisions are being made verbally, make sure you send an email after to say, right, in this meeting, we agreed this, X, Y, and Z. Just make sure all decisions and actions are documented in emails. This is massively important because when politics starts to get intense, this is what people look for. They look for this evidence. The managers will look for this evidence, and you'll probably need to provide this evidence to save yourself and protect yourself. So whilst you're protecting yourself by documenting things, you want to also protect yourself by not gossiping and I've discussed this in some of my other videos, but you should really stay away from office gossip and basically gossiping about things that are going on. This can almost always get back to other people, or your name may be associated with something being spread around, even if you were just a recipient of listening to things as well and just agreeing or not saying much. You are then part of that office gossip circle, so really try your best to stay clear of it and stick to people who don't do that sort of thing. A lot of the times people go wrong in office politics when they over assert themselves. So you have to be very careful with the dynamics and understand the power dynamics and where you fit in that. It's not the case that you should just go around over asserting your authority around the office and getting people just to agree with what you want to do. That is just the extreme, and really I've seen that play out, and it's just not the way to do it. That is the way to end your career effectively. But you need to engage with these influential people that I've mentioned in a non-opportunistic fashion and really not trying to go there and just assert your authority on them. What you need to do is, when you're having conversations with these individuals, you need to make sure that you understand their goals before you have the conversation. And when you're framing your conversations, the way you articulate them, you match them to the goals that you know they want to achieve. And you will have done this as part of step 1 in this video, when you have looked at the political landscape and understanding what people's goals are, the power players' goals. You start to frame your conversation around what's happening there with those individuals, and it starts to resonate with them, and that's how they remember you, and that's how they see you as someone who is trusted and aligned. If you start to complain and whine and complain about other things in the office, that is going to put them off straight away. You need to stay positive. When you're having these conversations, always be solution focused. Think about ways you can solve problems. Don't just talk about the problem. One thing that goes wrong a lot of the time in people's careers is that they spend too much time talking about the problems with senior managers or with their own manager. This is just not the way forward. A high-performing person would see the problem and just focus on ways to solve it. Perhaps I can bring in another team to help me solve this problem. Perhaps there's someone in the organization that knows or has experienced this before. Or maybe I have X, Y, and Z solutions to solve this problem. But you do not just go on about the problem itself. And this is very key when you're speaking to these influential groups as well, not just your own management, but in office politics, the people that are looking for solutions and really trying above and beyond to put the problem behind them and go forward. They are extremely recognized and they stand out massively compared to everyone else. So if this means you need to approach a new group of people to solve a problem, approach this new group of people, explain what the problem is you're trying to solve, explain who you're trying to help, who is that powerful influencer that you are helping to solve the problem with, and then talk to this group about it, and then play that back to the influential people later. Say, I've tried to progress this, I've spoken to so-and-so, and we're going to try this out. And the fact that you're just trying is enough. You don't always have to have the solutions, you just need to be shown to have the attitude. And finally, the one thing you need to do when office politics gets too much is to know when to walk away. When you have this political landscape mapped out, and think of it as a chessboard almost, and you see where you are in that board and you cannot make any moves forward, and you feel that you genuinely have become stuck, then do not stay in that job. And I know that sounds like the hardest thing, and it's hard when you have worked in a place for a long time, or maybe you're just not used to moving jobs regularly and you find that quite a challenging unknown situation. Trust me, it isn't. Start applying for jobs, start looking around. Just know when to read the room and read the landscape to know that this isn't going to work for me. I can't see a way forward. I can't see a sideways move even. And if that's the case, and it's getting a little bit too toxic as well, you just have to move as soon as you can. Find another job quickly. And it may not be the right job, but moving to a job that you can do and then working it out from there. Take it a step at a time, but do not stay in that environment. It will only harm your career. I spent 20 years in the corporate world navigating office politics. Some of this advice I wish I had done sooner in my career, even within the first 5 years. I overstayed my welcome in the first job I had in investment banking, and I should have left that a long time ago. But I've learned from these mistakes, and I now know that I put myself first. I navigate the politics as soon as I get into an organization, work out where I navigate myself to, and that helps me to at least get some growth in the role. And you grow to a point where you know you can't grow anymore, and then it is time to move on. Or it's time, if it's not time to move on for you, you're happy in that position, then you have to protect yourself in that position. And that's where this video has tried to help you protect your position as well as grow. So I hope that's been very beneficial for you. Do check out some of my other videos on the channel where I talk all about leadership. I talk about product management, technology, and really just getting ahead in your career in the workplace. If you want to ask me questions, just please comment on this video. I'm happy to take any questions as well and help you in your career. So stay tuned for the next video and look forward to you watching more.